This is a funny thing. It's a beautiful thing. This is how my life works, and how there's just this circadian rhythm that goes along with my life. It goes along with a lot of people's lives. I think everybody's lives. It's just that I don't think sometimes people recognize it. Maybe they do, I don't know. But I know you've all heard me talk about the blaze of glory. His name was Mitch. That is the man on the motorcycle. 23 years ago, I walked into a gym in Dallas, and I was working out all by myself on a Friday night. I was just recovering from, I had tried to commit suicide the year before that, after that one guy drove me insane, but whatever. Anyway, I'm in a gym on Friday night, all by myself, working out, and all of a sudden, this guy that I'd been checking this one guy out. We'd been looking at each other for several months, but neither one of us would ever talk to each other. And I didn't know he was there that night as well. And if you've never been to a gym on a Friday night at about 7 o'clock, it's just like literally there's nobody there at a gym at 7 o'clock except for very, very, very single people, or I don't know. So it was kind of desolate. So I had my headphones on. This was back during the day when, you remember we had Walkmans, and you'd have those little headpieces on with the little foam covers that went on your ears. Had my Walkman on. All of a sudden, I feel the headphones come off my ears, and I looked back, and it was him. And he took the headphones off my head, and he was like, "What are you doing here on a Friday night working out? Why aren't you on a date with your boyfriend?" And I was like, "Well, I don't have a boyfriend." Blah, 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 blah. And after we worked out that night, he took me to dinner. We went to this little bar that was right around the corner and had a drink. And we were inseparable for the next 2 years. I was supposed to marry him. He was an amazing human being. He was the first man who ever actually, he was something else, that guy. He was a presence in my life, and I fell in love with him. He fell in love with me. It was such an amazing, he was just such a beautiful part of my life. And the week before he died, on the night of his 35th birthday, on his motorcycle. He hit a brick wall going 90 miles an hour in Addison. That was a trauma for me. I was with him. And he had just asked me to marry him the week before that. So obviously that marked me pretty bad, because I was happy. I thought that was my happily ever after. Thought he was my happily ever after, but God had a different plan, obviously. But the point is, after he died, his mother, his family, he was from Shreveport, Louisiana. So after he died, I became his mother and his sister, and now his nieces. They're very important parts of my life. And when I lost him, so he died in May of 1998, I believe it was. But I lost him, but I never lost them. I always say that she was the mother-in-law. She was supposed to be my mother-in-law. She's just, I was very close with her for years and years. After he died, I would come back and forth to Shreveport, and she's just been an important part of my life. So, and I'm here now, back in Shreveport so his sister has become one of my dearest friends and one of my biggest support systems. It's so funny. She lives in Dallas now. And it's just funny because it's been 21 years that he's been gone. And he's not gone. I laughed last night on the way when I pulled into Shreveport. I walked into her house, and I don't know. This is the beautiful way that my life works, because when you really love someone, and when someone really loves you and becomes a part of the fabric of your life, it never really ends. And so it's like, how funny is that? I had him for 2 years, but I've had them for 21 years. So I'm here in Shreveport. She's going through, she's sick right now. We're taking her to her chemo today. And, but it's just, I don't know. I'm sitting here thinking to myself, what a beautiful irony it is, and how this works. And as a matter of fact, when we were on our way here last night, I hadn't been. So after Zach and I met, my life was taking I went through a lot. When I first met Zach, I was in a different recovery process. I was a mess. Oh my God. But, in the years after Mitch died, I was back and forth to Shreveport all the time. Like, I was here all the time. This was like my second home. And then after Zach came along, my life went in a different direction. So I didn't come here anymore. But I will say, it's funny because the last time I was here in Shreveport, and I just remembered this, I was talking to his sister last night. And the last time I was here was about 10 years ago. And I brought him here to meet Betty. Her name is Betty. They're doing some construction out here. So, yeah, it's just funny because, when I think about that, I'm just filled with like warmth. I'm filled with warmth. I'm inspired, because one of the things I've worried about, which I shouldn't be, I've worried a lot in the last year, because I don't know what the plan is for me down the road. I don't know if there's something or somebody out there. As I've said before, it would take a very, very strong presence of a man to, I don't even know how that would work, because I've been loved by 2 men. I have been fully and totally and unconditionally loved by 2 men, and they were both kings in their own right. And obviously the way that both of them left, it's been less than optimal. But now where I am in my life, I feel very adamant. I'm happily alone. I'm comfortable in my own skin, and I can do this on my own for the rest. As I've said, those 2 men loved me enough to last me the rest of my life here on this earth. I don't need to have someone that isn't going to add, that I won't settle for anything less than another king. And if I do this again, it'll be one last time. I'm not going to, I don't know if that's going to happen for me or not. But my point is, I think one of the things I've worried about when I go to those places and wonder what my future could be is, I wonder, how is it possible that any man could possibly ever come into this picture, and who would want to live? What kind of man could live with not just one ghost now, but there's 2? What kind of man would want to come in here and have, I guess, someone's leftovers, or I don't know. That's the way that my mind, I'm just being honest. And I think to myself, well, I guess I'm just going to be alone the rest of my life, because there's no man out there on the face of this planet who could possibly take this on, because going forward, it's me, and I have 2 ghosts, and I am a queen, and I have a crown, and I am not settling for anything less than everything, or I will have nothing. I will be alone. I can do what I need to do on my own. But my sister-in-law, his sister, last night we were talking, and she goes, "You know what, Catherine? I want you to think about something." She goes, one of my favorite things about Zach was how, when the 2 of you met, he embraced my brother, her brother, Mitch. She said, do you remember that, he brought you here to Shreveport. He brought you here to bring flowers to his grave. He brought you here to meet his family, the ghost's family. And my husband, that was one of the most endearing things about him. He embraced my past. He didn't feel like he was competing with it. In his mind, my past was what gave me our present. And he was grateful. He would always say that he was grateful because Mitch was one of the best parts of my story. And there was so much beauty. He was the very beginning. He was like the first nugget of what true love and unconditional love looked like from a man. And I'd never had that before in my life, other than with my son. Obviously, that's an unconditional love bond. But I'm talking about the love of a man, a mate, a partner. And I'd never felt anything like that before. And my husband, when he met me, when he fell in love with me, he fell in love with all of me. He fell in love with my past, all of it. And he would cry with me. I mean, he let me cry. When I first met him, we were friends for the longest time, and he would hold me when I cried about Mitch, and he heard all the stories, and he wanted to know all of the things. He wanted to know all of the places that I'd gone and he wanted to hear my stories, and he would ask me. He wanted to know everything. So when my husband knew everything about Mitch, and he loved that. He loved to embrace that part of my life because I loved that part of my life, and he loved me, all of me, and that included my ghost. So I think about that, and my Tanya last night, I think that's probably one of the best things that's ever happened to me in the longest time, because it, and she's right. If it was possible, when I met Zach, the way that he embraced me and the way that he embraced my broken past and my ghost, it was a big ghost. Mitch was such a big part of my life, and he's still in my life. There's not a day that goes by. It's been 21 years. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think of him. Even in the 12 years that I spent with Zach, Mitch was always there. He's always, when you really love someone, when you've truly connected with someone, love never dies. True love never dies. I still feel love. I still feel those feelings for him, and it was beautiful. It's such a sweet part of my life, and I cherish that. And so my point is, if there was a man that came along, there was my Zach, he came along, and he loved me. He loved me, and he loved my ghost, and he didn't feel threatened by it, and he didn't feel overwhelmed by him. And at the time, that was the biggest shadow that was behind me, and there's a shadow that's still behind me. In all the days of our life, there wasn't a time that went by. My husband always knew that I felt that love for Mitch in my heart, and it was this part of me, and he loved me anyway. And so I think to myself, well, if Zach could love me and my ghost, and look where we went, look what we had. So maybe there is someone out there who is willing, or it's possible. Anything's possible. With true love, unconditional love, with the right person and the right heart, and under the right circumstances. Who knows? Only God knows what's going to happen. I'm either going to be alone and happy, or there's going to be one last, I say everything happens in threes. 3 is my favorite number. 3 is a special number. 3 is the number, I think, of perfection. And a lot of people that think about numbers or consider numerology at any length realize 3 is a powerful number. So if it is true that things happen in threes, third time's a charm, maybe there is one last king out there somewhere for me, waiting for me, and not one ghost, not 2 ghosts, I have 3 ghosts. I have a little girl and my blaze of glory, and now I got this monster of a ghost like lurking behind me for the rest of my life. Zach Williamson is going nowhere. It's impossible. It will be impossible for me to forget him. I mean, he's in everything. Mitch is still woven into all of the fabric of my life in such a good way. So it is what it is. I am who I am.